Hey, welcome everybody to Talking Niagara this morning. I'm still waiting for Dave. This is what he told me last night. I will be late. Left my phone at McBain. I'll get it when it opens at 7. Right? McBain Centre is supposed to open at 7. So I've sent him the link. I went, okay, what can we do about that? Okay. Up to you guys to harangue Dave, okay? So, not that I recommend that. Not that I recommend that. Hello, Chris Simone from Chippewa. Yep. So you're in Chippewa these days. Good. Good to see you back again. All right. Okay. So one of the things we didn't get to yesterday was Laura Lococo is basically saying we need to be relooking at housing policy. Some of a couple of the bullet points that she pointed out is that 42.3% of the population is 55 to 64 years of age, an age group that requires different housing than if it was a family. So another one, almost half of households in the municipality, 49.3, make under 60,000 a year, much lower than in the region or the province. So that's an important point to consider. 47% of rental households indicated they were spending more than 30% of their income on housing. And singles spend 59% of their income on housing. Affordable is supposed to be less than 30%. These are points Laura Lococo has been pointing out. A recent housing reporter lists rent for a bachelor apartment at $643, a 1-bedroom at $968, a 2-bedroom at $1,098, and a 3-bedroom at $1,145. I find that unbelievable, actually, because those are much lower than I would expect. And whilst rents in the Niagara region have been coming down, they haven't been coming down that much. A 1-bedroom, I've been, through most of my talk, remember I speak with a lot of tenants and a lot of landlords. So things like, I know what the rents that are actually physically being charged at. And 1-bedrooms are typically 15 to 1,800. 2-bedrooms are typically up to about 2,500, and 3-bedrooms are anything above 2,500 to about 3,500 in this area. So housing report lists are not always telling the truth. I'm not sure where these statistics came from, but but it's difficult to really know where they are, because okay, where she's saying here, it's difficult right now to find a 1-bedroom for at least $1,200. All right. So this was done in 2021. We're 3 years behind these statistics. Yeah, that's an important aspect here, which Laurie points out, that those statistics that she's pointing out are 3 years old. Yeah. So we said hello to Chris Simone, and hello again from Chris Simone on Facebook, and good morning to Nancy on Facebook. We're still waiting for Dave to come, by the way. Just letting everybody know. I'm going through what Laura Lococo said said that basically needs to happen in terms of change in recognition in Niagara Falls. She's saying the plan is not jiving with reality when it comes to affordability. So our current housing strategy plan in Niagara Falls is nowhere near what reality is. And statistics that are 3 or 4 years behind the times are not helping anybody. And that's another important thing to point out. Cheech and Chong Dave. Dave's not here. Dave's getting his phone from McBain Center. So he left me a message last night, 22:23. I'll be late. I left my phone in McBain. I'll get it when it opens at 7. Right. Well, it's now 7:17. I thought Dave would have been here by about 7:15. So anyway, but I've given him the link, sent him it all, and that's where we are. Yeah. So at the moment, I've been looking at Laurie Lococo's statement that Niagara Falls needs to review its housing strategy, and I've given a number of statistics. And she's saying that the plan's not really driving with reality, and it's time that Niagara Falls reviews its housing strategy, and particularly that relates to affordability. During the meeting last week, the council approved Laurie's motion that the council review its housing strategy for education, information, and discussion purposes. Right, so almost every development application, she's saying that almost every development application that comes before the council, they make comments about affordable housing rate, attainable rate, and is it realistic? Is it not? What is affordable? And those are actually questions that a lot of people are actually asking. And there's a whole scale of what's called affordability. Laurie utilizes the thank you, Chris. It is, yeah. So still empty homes and Airbnbs and every other corner. Yeah, I think I'm a lot more concerned about the empty homes than I am the Airbnbs in a way. And I get your concern, Mike, about the Airbnbs. I'm much more concerned about the empty homes, where basically we're in a situation whereby people are saying realistically it doesn't matter. Well, I'll make more money out of leaving my home empty than I will by renting it out. And I think that's a very bad place to be. But then again, given how I've been many times at the landlord and tenant board, and yesterday was a session. I was at a session yesterday that was all about demolitions to rebuild apartments. I was operating for a tenant. We negotiated a way back in for her. So, that was one thing that I did, and continue at the same rent. So she's back in at the same rent. All right. Which is an important thing because she's not a person who can afford, a lavish lifestyle. She's got a 1-bedroom apartment, and she's been paying below below the current market rate, and she was paying below the market rate that was indicated in these 2021 statistics, and so that's affordable for her. If she moves out and she's paying current rents, that's not affordable. So, but in fact, actually, that said, she's still paying probably more than 30% of her income to housing, right? So she's on benefits, but she's paying more than 30% of her income to housing. And that's something that and I think to some extent, the only way we're going to end up with some form of housing, some form of housing that takes care of affordability, true affordability, is if we actually have municipally run homes. Right? And Mike's talking about the Airbnbs that are empty most of the time. That's true. I guess what you're saying is there's a whole heap of available homes that are available out there. right? And yes, there are, and one of the issues here is we still don't have an empty homes bylaw. Right? They have in St. Catharines. In fact, actually, it was interesting. There's a commercial building whereby there was actually a bylaw notice for a vacant properties. This property has been vacant as long as I can remember it. I'd say it's probably been vacant for 10 years. It's on Queen Street downtown, been vacant for at least 10 years. So the owners of that building need to do something about it. Office building, they're basically charging unrealistic rent. Just because they're charging Toronto rent because they believe they're owed it. They're not going to happen. It really is not going to happen. So for an office building, they're charging Toronto rent, which is ridiculous. Now they're proposing to replace the office building with a condo unit. Again, I don't know that will succeed. And another one of these where St. Catharines is seemingly letting these go. They're another one of these that will have no parking, right? And St. Catharines is approving lots of these. And again, a couple of these that I've seen also, a couple of downtown St. Catharines ones that have been slated for development, same as we've got in Niagara Falls, slated for development, and then they bulldoze the building and nothing happens. Right? It's something that we need to also do something about. If you're gonna do the building, build it. Right? It's not have empty lots. Right? Okay, I thought Dave would have been here by now. He really is pushing his luck. Okay, so any thoughts, gents? Yeah, and the Airbnb policy is not really part of what Laurie's looking at here, but 47. And I think it's crucial that 47.4% of rental households indicated they're spending more than 30% of their income on paying for housing. And I think the reality is that probably in Ontario now, that's probably an Ontario-wide statistic that too many people are paying too much for their housing. Okay, so Chris cut his pay. Yeah. Okay. I think we will. Nothing. I will remove. I will take 50% of nothing. There you go. Yeah. Well, we can have a laugh about it when he gets here. I would have thought he would have been here by now. So obviously, traffic between McBain and Thoroldstone is hairy. So keep it up. Keep him out of the show, guys. Okay. Moving on. Okay. So is there anything else that she said in here? No, this is from last week's council meeting anyway. So, and she's right. We need to do more about affordability. Now, particularly when you're looking at new apartment builds in places like McLeod Road, they all need affordable units within them. And again, with affordability, they need to be units that are actually just not about putting up as many as you can in an area. We need to have a section of them that are affordable, and not just affordable for a 5-year period. I mean, affordable for a long period of time. Okay, so the elections that are coming up, interesting. So Chris is asking about elections that are coming up. Okay, so next week, actually, that is next week is election week, and okay, so we are now on February Thursday the 20th. We've got 1 week to the provincial elections. 1 week. All right. So okay, 1 week to the elections, and look who's showing up. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
So what happened? You went to McBain. They didn't open as early. You were banging on the door at 6:59 and a half, and then eventually you got in at 7:10.
Pretty close. They opened up on time though, but I got there well ahead of time, hoping to catch somebody going in, and I saw them, but I couldn't yell at them. And then one of the workers, the grounds workers, came out, but he couldn't get back in, and he says, "Well, you just have to wait till it opens at 7." It seemed like it was forever, and then there was no results anyway. So someone in my club must have picked it up. Now I phoned somebody in my club from there, but they didn't initialize their phone messages, and they didn't answer their phone. So I had to come all the way back home, and hopefully later today I'll find somebody who picked up the phone.
Yeah. So Chris has a solution for you. We're going to cut your pay. Okay. So so I've got the scissors here somewhere. I've got scissors. Damn, I got too much stuff on my desk. I've got scissors. I'm going to cut your paycheck in half.
That's okay. I doubled my wages last week anyway, so if you cut them in half now, it's not going to do much difference.
No, it's like you can get the left half of your paycheck today. We'll keep the right half of your paycheck for another week, okay?
Yeah. Well, pay's never really an issue here because I could get 10 times as much as I got yesterday, and it really doesn't make much difference, does it?
Okay.
Or I could have a pay cut today, and it's not really going to make much difference.
Yeah. Okay, so we were.
If I take more of a pay cut, I'll have to owe you money.
I was just talking, by the way, about the Lococo's requirements for a review of housing policy, and actually Chris then came up and said, "What about the upcoming elections?" Right? So they are provincial election. They're the provincial elections. They're going to happen on Thursday, February 27th. So 1 week from today. This has been probably the shortest election list. Election.
Yeah,
time,
this
right? One of the shortest
yeah,
times.
It's very tight.
Yeah,
it's very tight. Ford was very smart to do that, really, because he knows that the other parties are in no shape to run anyone against him, really not that well. He's got the popular vote. He's already got the incumbency. The other parties are struggling. And what better time to call an election? Throw in Trump, and you've got the ideal situation for a massive majority.
What you've got here, by the way, Chris, is that one of the aspects about this new election is, of course, the next time we have a provincial election will be 4 years from next week. So that will be late in February in 2029. So the municipal elections will continue to go ahead in October, the third week in October of 2026. The federal timing, as soon as the Liberals sort out, there's a projection out there that a couple of things that are saying is, I've heard some Liberals that are saying that if Carney wins, and it's likely he will, that he's going to call he'll probably call an election. He won't bother bringing Parliament back. He'll just go straight to an election, right? And there are people in the Liberal Party that feel that with Mark Carney, and I've seen statistics out there that people are flashing them up, but there are no articles related to these statistics. So this always bothers me. They're flashing news articles up showing that if Mark Carney wins, the Liberals are equal to the Conservatives at 40%, or could be in the lead by about 3 or 4%. The thing is, it's not backed up. There's no other polling to suggest that's even out there. I'm not so sure. It's got zero backup, zero peer review, if you know what I mean. Right? Greens are the only ones that did costing to date.
Mike mentioned this yesterday as well. Yeah. Costing. What does he mean by costing?
Yeah, that's what I said. Of what? Who do we like? Okay, so here's the question. So looking at that, Niagara Falls, we've got Wayne Gates for NDP. We've got Ruth Ann Neubersteg, PC Party of Ontario. We've got Celia Taylor, Green Party of Ontario. We've got Shafuli Kapoor, who's the Ontario Liberal Party. We've got Gary Demelli, who's New Blue Party. We've got Jody Burdett, who's independent. And we have Andrew Seifert of the Ontario Party.
Well, I don't know much about the Ontario Party. I remember looking it up, I think, last election. The thing is, because Ford caught such a snap election, he isn't allowed any of the candidates to really get themselves well established. Now, the NDP are very lucky in this area because Wayne Gates is very well established and he happens to be an incumbency. But anyone else, even Ruth Ann Neubersteg, would probably have the next biggest chance of winning just because of her alignment with the Conservative Party, and they happen to be very popular at the moment. So she might do fairly well, but I can't see anyone else doing any good at all. I don't think the Liberals will go anywhere. I don't think of any of those other parties that you mentioned. The Liberals had to have a fly-in candidate. The person doesn't even live here, never has lived here. And that's because the local Liberals are so spooked, none of them will step up. Why? Because why should they? Why should they step up? They don't have they don't have a leadership that's innovative as yet anyway.
Yeah.
And why would they spend their time and money on that? So what they do is they fly somebody in from Toronto and say, here's your run for party here.
Yep. Yeah, and in some respects, they had to, I think, because where we were with the Liberals in Niagara Falls is that the day before the nominations closed, which was the 13th, last Thursday, the Liberals didn't have a candidate, on the list.
Yes.
And I would have been on that list for had I managed to get all of my nominations in. I fell about 3 or 4 short, unfortunately, because of the extreme bad weather we had that week.
Yes, that's another thing. Ford's pretty smart, I got to tell you, that he picked the perfect time.
Yeah, and by the way, just to let you know, a friend of our show on here, Angela Brown, is standing in Niagara Centre for the Ontario Alliance Party.
Ontario Alliance Party, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you, Angela.
Right. And also as another one, Justin O'Donnell is actually standing for Ontario Alliance in St. Catharines as well.
Yeah.
And so he's one person at work that I know. All right. So yeah, just to repeat that, for Niagara Falls, we've got Wayne Gates for NDP, Ruth Ann Norrisdeg for PC, Celia Taylor for Green, Shafoli Kapoor for Ontario Liberal Party, Gary Dramelli for New Blue, Jody Burdett Independent, and Andrew Seifert from Ontario Party. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to our next topic that we had, which was that breweries are urging tax relief to help mitigate the impact of potential US tariffs. So obviously local tax relief here they're looking for removal of taxes to help them get a better market hold in Canada.
No, I can't see the articles because I don't have a phone. So
Yeah, and I don't have access to this particular article. So
which one is it? Which one is it again?
Well, it's the one that says we're already behind the 8 ball. Niagara breweries and cideries push for tax relief amid tax concerns.
Yeah, I know that. I read that a few days ago. I posted it a few days ago. Basically, what that is. Yeah, and I'm going to bring up the article here if I can.
Yeah, I can't get it. I can't get at it, unfortunately. But it really is it's a horrible situation. Because they're already feeling under pressure, right? So they're already in a bad spot, and they're basically saying that we need additional support. And the problem here is that a lot of, let's be honest, everybody's going to be clamoring for additional support from government right now, aren't they?
Yes, I'm afraid so. And the thing is, they have a very good point here. And as soon as I bring up the article, I'll get into it. Yeah, it's been a couple of days since I've read it and I posted it. And basically, what they're asking is for fair treatment, really. And I get the damn.
Well, traditionally tax on tax on beer and tax on liquor has always been an issue anyway, because there's been quite a large percentage of tax, particularly on liquor, more so on liquor than ciders and beer.
Yeah, well, what this article basically is talking about. Basically, what this article is talking about is fair treatment because other provinces have a lot less stringency on their product. It costs more to make beer and wine in Ontario than some of the other provinces, and they want that taken care of. That'll help them, particularly when all this BS about the Trump BS is going on. They're going to need every help they can get to square the oh boy. Yeah. It's an old article, so I got to go look for it.
Yeah. All right. And I don't know to what extent do we really need to give relief about this, because I'm just concerned that if we give to one industrial sector, we're going to end up giving to all industrial sectors.
They have a very good point. I wish I could get the damned article up because here we go. Finally found it.
Well, that's all I'm concerned about is that if we give to one sector, we give to all. Dave?
The bloody thing. What?
Yeah,
it keeps bouncing off of there.
Okay. My only concern is that we give to one sector, we give to all. We end up with a government.
Yeah, that's not exactly. Yeah. So it's not. Well, basically what they're saying is they are already on their back foot before these tariffs are going to come from the United States. They're already on their back foot because they already pay more in taxes and other things than other provinces do. What they want a little bit of help being at least equal with BC or some other the other places that produce these things.
Yeah.
And sadly, I can't get that article up.
And okay, I accept that that's an issue. That's an issue. My biggest concern in all of this, though, is that we the inter-province trading is something that's got to be stopped right now. It's got to. We've got to. I don't know. We need Parliament to get back into actually bring an end to that. But we need to actually bring an end to it. It's killing our trade. And why would we? Why would we have such fake things?
I don't know. Our provinces are very jealous of one another, and that's been always the problem. They jealously guard what they have from one another, and yet they are perfectly willing to trade south of the border. But for some reason, are jealous of each other, and this is something that's been going on for a very long time. Let's drop provincial trade barriers. But one of the problems with provincial trade barriers is because each different province or region has different trucking rules. Believe it or not, that is one of the issues. They have different trucking regulations.
Okay.
Now they can send a truck down in the United States, but they can't send a truck across the country because it violates the different regulations in the provinces. Can you believe it?
So if I've got a load of steel and I wish to send it to a manufacturer in British Columbia, I then have to have so much paperwork getting across the Manitoba border, the Regina border, the Saskatchewan border, the whatever else border, right? Just to get it there.
Yeah. So there are different regulations on shipping and trucking, and that's the very first place they can work on is get a consensus, because it cannot be that much different from one place in Canada to the other. Yeah. They'll all have the same sort of regulations, very close to one another. They'll all have the same sort of safety regulations, very close to one another. That you would think would be the easiest thing to fix right off, wouldn't you? But
I would think so.
But no, they keep bickering among themselves about the most littlest of things. The problem, too, is the jealousy by which they guard each other. Like Quebec's little farms are going to be jealous of Ontario's little farms, and so on and so forth. So each different province, and I can tell you what a pain in the neck it is. Quebec workers could come here to Ontario to work, but Ontario workers could not go to Quebec to work. Quebec workers, Quebec millwrights, Quebec ironworkers, Quebec boilermakers could come to Ontario. They could go to Alberta, but Ontario ones couldn't go to Quebec.
Yeah.
It's right down to labor.
Yeah. Those kind of barriers, not good. Not helpful at all, right? Yeah, not in the least bit helpful to anybody.
No,
all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, did you manage to get to your articles?
Well, I got a bunch of articles here now. Yeah. What are we going to next?
Okay, Marineland severance has been agreed. So, Marineland succeeds in its bid to sever the property so it can raise money to move animals. I didn't think the idea was raise money to move animals. I thought it was raise money to actually deal with, developments on other parts of the property.
No, it says something here. Let me get to the article. It's been a bit of a problem today because...
Yeah, basically it says that so it can take out mortgages in order to fund park operations.
Yeah, so we talked about this before, that
Yeah,
they were applying for land severances so that they could use those particular land severances as collateral for loans. And the
yeah,
loans they are looking for, and of course, there's all kinds of speculation and everything. It was very, very clear in the articles that the land severances of parcels of the land that do not include the park, amusement park with the animals, anything to do with the animals. The severances of that land is the guarantee for the loans. Now, the loans are coming in for just to operate the amusement park, the money they need, the capital they need to kickstart the amusement park for the year. That'll be wages, that'll be startup costs, whatever. And once they get it up and going, they're going to be paying off those loans. So the whole intent of this is for them to uh, to keep Marineland and all the land together, but no one's going to give them a loan for the part of the park that has the animals in it, because that's just too much of a problem for them. That's a political problem. That's an ethical problem. So they won't do that. They don't want to be holding the bag, basically, where Marineland has borrowed money using its animal part of its park as collateral, and then they fail. And then what's the bank going to do with all those animals and everything else? No. So they've cut up the park, the 66.9 hectare property, and that's basically all it is. But it does say something here that the animals are going to have to be left. They're going to have something to do with the animals in the long term
yeah.
here.
They're talking about eventually they're going to have to move the animals, including the 24 beluga whales that they've got in the property. But they are actually currently looking into that. But also, I don't believe it's not like that. It's not going to happen tomorrow. And to be honest about it, doesn't matter what happens. That isn't going to happen tomorrow.
No, that's not going to happen tomorrow. But in the meantime, they need startup costs. They need the money to get going.
Yeah,
And the whole idea is the severance. This very, very basic anyway. So the committee of adjustments has said okay, but it's also the city folk that are part of all this cannot tell you what Marineland will eventually transition to. Marineland formally announced that it was for sale in 2023, trying to find ownership to transition. But anyway, that hasn't happened. Any loan secured by a mortgage on the land and the severance is solely to create sufficient parcels of land for security that does not contain any animals that would otherwise complicate the lender's security. That's it right then and there.
Yeah. And Tom Richardson, who's the lawyer representing Marineland, said that finance is critical for the upcoming season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. They need to maintain the property. They need to look after the animals, and and basically, get it going as a viable tourist location.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of been my concern, and I'm glad that we're moving in the right direction with that. Yeah. Good morning, Karen.
Hi, Karen. Yeah, so that's basically that in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I don't know what these animals are going to do.
Yeah. Well, and again, moving the animals is something that it will do, but it won't happen tomorrow. Interesting, though, that they're talking about 24 beluga whales. Is 24 enough to create a pod?
I'm not so sure, but it would be. I'm not so sure if you can let them out in the wild. I'm not so sure that could happen with a pod like that. You might want to try it. There's beluga whales in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, so you can try it.
Yeah, no,
See what
I
happens.
don't know. I'm just asking. I don't know. It's not something I'm have any expertise or even any knowledge about. But 25 whales that must be living together, must be communicating with each other, must probably have as close a family relationship as you could possibly imagine.
Oh,
Right?
you know what? That's a good point because they're all living together anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe they could create a pod, but you would really have to talk to a naturalist on that one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely would. I'm just asking the question. I'm not proposing an answer. I don't know. I really don't know. You'd have to find somebody who's an expert in that kind of area. They have run the park into the ground if they don't have the money to open it up. They don't even have the money to open it up. Yeah, well, that's part of the problem we face, Karen. It's why they're going for the loans. All right.
Yeah. Say in the final bit of the article, it says the intention to re-emerge the remerge the four parts into one area. To my knowledge, nothing has been planned further than first wells on site, etc. About the wells, and he did not address how the wells would be dealt with. I'm not aware of any plans as how the land will be developed in the future, whether it will remain a theme park, whether it be developed uh, for, say, residential. And senior manager of development for the city, Tara O'Toole, said at this time there is no current plans for the future of that area.
Yeah.
Should any plans for redevelopment come forward, the public process would unfold, including open houses, meetings, solicit feedback, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's an area that I think there's a lot of people are uneasy about that, right?
Uh, I don't know if it goes. I would like to see it to stay a theme park,
So would I.
basically. But I could see the motivation of making it residential areas. But you aren't going to find uh, too many affordable units there. I'm afraid.
No, no, this would be a luxury housing complex, wouldn't it? I can see that for sure. Yeah. Okay. Moving on, Trump is threatening to slap 25% tariffs on all auto imports, including parts.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm not so sure he knows what he's doing here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly
Now,
my.
in this particular article, our our foreign affairs minister Melanie Jolie, our foreign minister Melanie Jolie has said that like she's been mocked again by American representatives saying about the 51st state. So they're going at that point. They're beginning their negotiations with insults, and what Melanie Jolie is trying to tell the Europeans, like, this is no joke. This guy is a lunatic, and he wants a hunk of Canada, and he probably wants a hunk of Europe. He doesn't care if his allies are strong. He only wants to bring everything back home. He wants to have one mighty nation with a bunch of slave states all around them, basically. So what and you could tell by the way they're negotiating for the Ukrainians right now, without the Ukrainians even being involved, that they have no interest in Ukraine, except maybe some of the minerals that might be there. And the latest peace deal they were going to offer Ukraine was incredible. It was likened to the peace deals after the First World War, when Germany got crushed with reparation, which actually helped lead to the Second World War. It was the deal that the U.S. has for Ukraine has Ukraine paying reparations to the United States for years to come, and at amounts not seen since the Second World War. And this is a country that was supposed to be fighting on our behalf, basically, to keep Russia out of its expansionist policies.
Yeah.
It is a ridiculous offer. The Ukrainians have turned it down, but that gives you some kind of an idea of what a vulture Trump is being. And we're afraid that basically we're going to have to team up with Europeans and others all around because until this guy is out of office, things could get pretty bad. Our only hope is that the damage he does to the American economy slows him down.
Yeah, because that's the point, is that he thinks that this is all positive for the American economy.
That's right.
And it might be destroying our economy, but it's not positive for the US economy either.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. Not in my view. And again, we need to be looking elsewhere. We need to be looking at the English-speaking nations in the rest of the world. We need to be looking at Europe, and we need to be forging alliances with the Commonwealth countries and with the European Union about trading blocks outside of North America.
Well, yeah, like we're already shooting ourselves in the foot constantly, always. Hey, you know what? We're gonna get scared this time, like we got scared the last time, like we got scared the last time, and we all said always the same thing. Oh, we better diversify. We're very vulnerable. But then when the push comes to the shove, everybody just gets lazy and goes back to the same old way. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and the auto situation seems to be kind of at the nub of it all. It's like he hasn't understood how the auto industry works. The fact that there's when it comes down to it, there's parts places in America, there's parts places in Mexico, there's parts places in Canada, and that those are all shipped to one of those three nations to put a car together.
Yeah. Well, basically what he wants to do is, in his mind, he wants to bring all car manufacturing back to Detroit or other places in the United States.
Yeah.
He often mentions Detroit. He said we stole the car industry and all this fluff and bluster.
No, we never stole it. The Americans developed it over here. They had the choice not to. I'm sure Canadians would have bought American cars a long time. Canadians have always bought American cars.
Yeah.
And anyway, so it's not.
Look, the main thing here is every car company aligned with the USMCA. We talked about this yesterday. And that was supposed to be the governing body for the trade, particularly with cars.
Yep.
Now he's changing it.
Yep.
How far he can get and how far he'll be able to go before a Republican has the backbone to stand up to him. Right now, if we target, we may have to go through this whole process of targeting tariffs in the United States like we did last time and causing pain there the best we can. But what that did was we got pain and they got pain, and finally everything got sorted out. And after a year, the pain went away and things went back to the way they were. Do we really have to go through all that anymore? And all it takes is a few Republicans with a backbone, particularly Republicans in states that are going to be vulnerable to these tariffs. I don't know. So I don't know, but he's going to go after Europe too. And and the thing, what he's saying is, of course, it's nonsense that they've already been really bad for him. Well, the United States walked into every one of those agreements with the eyes wide open. They have a trade agreement with Europe. They have a trade agreement with just about everybody else. So if they have these trade agreements, they were the ones that negotiated them.
Yeah.
If they want them renegotiated, just go to the table and say, look, we don't like it the way it is. We're going to renegotiate.
Time to renegotiate.
If
Yeah.
Europe says, well, we're not going to negotiate. Well, then you say, okay, well, then here comes the tariffs.
Yeah.
Then Europe will come to the table, and so will Canada. But right now, the deal we have with the United States is the one that Donald Trump created. And he famously some say the greatest deal ever made. Well, if it was some say the greatest deal ever made, well, how come it's no good now?
Yeah. Yeah, and the fact is that Trump created that deal, and he did so sometime between 2016 and 2020. So, and Biden did nothing to change that deal, which means that the Dems were perfectly okay with it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Right. And according to much of the newspapers that have been out there, that whole deal back then was actually something that they were just, the Americans wanted, and he essentially got most of what he wanted, right, at the time.
Yeah, so it just about ended up very, very close to what it was prior to that. Before the negotiations, prior to the negotiations the last time, he got pretty much. There wasn't a whole lot changed, And before the negotiations, we had a trade imbalance with the United States on goods. Afterwards, we've had a trade imbalance on all goods except oil. Oil shows that because we sell so much oil to the United States, it gives us a surplus. But let's be clear, it's only oil that's the surplus part. Everything else, they have a surplus on us on all things except that oil.
Exactly. So for every Canadian car that's sold in America, there's 10 US cars that are sold in Canada.
Well, not quite, but
but you get what I'm meaning.
Yeah, so basically they sell more cars and car parts to us than we sell to them.
Yeah, exactly.
They sell more refrigerator. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah,
whether it's a refrigerator or if it's a whatever it is, they sell more of it to us. Now we could be selling them more electric power than they sell us. So we sell them electric power, and they sell us refrigerators. It's whatever, but they make more money out of it than we do.
Yeah, absolutely they do. Yeah. All right. The other thing to note about this is, for example, there's been a lot of talk about, don't go to McDonald's, don't go to American-owned businesses like McDonald's or Burger King or a Subway or Pizza Hut.
No.
I think
the Canadian owns that. Yeah, we got to remember that a Canadian owns that.
Well,
the Canadian people work in there.
Canadian people work in there. Doesn't matter who owns it. Canadians work there. We do not.
A Canadian person's bought that franchise.
Which
basically the Canadian person bought the franchise, and they are invested big time money. So if you start putting banning these places, then you're hurting the person that invested the money, the Canadian that invested the money, the Canadian people that work in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, you'll never be able to do it. McDonald's is like cocaine to people. You'll never be able to slow them down, really.
Yeah, I like that one, Dave. McDonald's is like cocaine to many people. It is, that's for sure. And it's like even if you haven't had a McDonald's in a month or two, you kind of go, go past the McDonald's. I can smell it. I'm going in.
Well, I usually avoid them, but
same here.
The fast food places, but sometimes they're pretty convenient if you're going up north or something. You can pull in.
Yeah. You got it.
A muffin or something. I don't know what they are, but
yeah, exactly. If you're heading away somewhere, hey, that's very convenient when you can just drive in and go, okay, I know exactly what I want. I want one of these and one of these and one of these. and get on with your day, right?
Yes. Well, anyway, it's going to be a rough ride. The guy's a goof. He's a trollster, and he loves making people scared. But what really sort of like, I wasn't afraid of the guy or anything like that. I think we're going to have to go through all this BS that he's happening right now. But what he tried to pull in Ukraine makes me fearful.
Well, we need to discuss
because it was like you're going to die unless you give us everything you got, basically, type of deal. We want everything you have, and we want it for 50 years. And we want so much money that you will be impoverished. We're going to want your lithium, cobalt. We want it all. And we're going to be the major. And otherwise, if you don't do that, you don't get any deal. Now, they turned it down. We'll see what comes back, because the world is pretty much aware of that deal. And it's a humiliation to the United States at this particular time.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens here, I think. But Europe and Canada put themselves into this particular position. We relied on the United States for our defense. We were supposed to come up with a lousy 2%, but we didn't do it. The Europeans didn't do it. We didn't do it. Some of the Europeans did it even more.
Well, some of the Europeans did. The irony here is France, who was the latecomer to NATO, did.
Yeah, and Britain does, but a lot of the other ones don't, including us. And the state says, "Well, look, you're not paying your end. You're not contributing. Well, good luck, because we're getting out of here. We're not going to protect you anymore." And Canada, the same thing. He can look up north and says, "Look, why should we protect you? You can't protect yourself. You never spend any money at all on your military.
Yep.
The hell with you. We're not covering you anymore." So we put ourselves in this position. We also put ourselves into the position where we're reliant on the United States. And that's just because we're just damn lazy and we're poor planners.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's part and parcel of the problem that we face, is that we put ourselves exactly in that position.
Yeah, we made ourselves vulnerable. So when a bully like Trump comes along, that's fresh meat.
Hi, good morning. Let's go back to Robin Hood days. Says Betty. All right. And I think we're going to have to leave it at that point, Dave.
Okay. Without further ado, I bid you adieu. And your friend Phoneless Dave says goodbye.